almost couldn't believe it. And so that like emotional current carried me through a lot of the initial kind of like kicks in the balls that you get to square you away, almost kind of like bounced off, because I was like, hell
Okay.
yeah, I'm getting smoked by the SEALs. Like they're pissed at me. This is great. Yeah, that's what I'm here
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
So I was like in it.
He'll be back. It's a banger, folks. It's a banger. Hey, tell him. Seals don't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like,
Break your
get it
tooth.
fixed, get back in, because you're still on the list. You ain't passed yet, so I had to do it again.
Yep. Boom. Like, let's talk about it. So I know when I showed up at Buds, it was a 7-year journey for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And that first day I showed up at Buzz, I was so fucking happy to actually be there, but I was completely out of shape. So it was a little bit of them first couple of weeks for me were as sketchy as you could ever believe. And I was an officer.
Right.
I was a lieutenant junior grade at the time,
Yeah.
right? So talk about kind of like, you get out to California, you do Buds prep.
Man.
What do you remember what your PT test was when you left? What your scores were?
I don't remember specific numbers. It was not. It was like towards the the recommended. Like this is what's recommended. It wasn't maxing that out, but it was towards there. It was. I think when I actually did my swim time was decent. My run time was decent, but yeah, I think I did like maybe 90 some push-ups and sit-ups about. Yeah, I want to say maybe 14 pull-ups, something like that. I don't. I can't remember specifics, but I know it wasn't like minimum, but it wasn't big stud either. But it was good enough.
So you get the Buds. What was that first day like? Were you excited? Like, what were kind of some of the emotions of you getting to the magic land?
Dude, emotionally, I was riding high. That was like the best day of my life. So we started Indoc, I think, a week after my 18th birthday, and I ended up joining up with a buddy of mine from basic. He was the only other dude who I started with in boot camp who ended up in Buds. The other two guys dropped out, so it was me and him. We ended up being roommates at Buds. Josh Mitchell,
Okay.
and he was really cool, and he made it all the way through, I believe, with that class. So yeah, I was just riding high, man. I was like living the dream. I was really in it. I did show up like right at the end, right before we started Indoc. There was already a bunch of dudes there. I was one of the last guys to kind of get there, which means a lot of all the good gear had already been out, so when we're drawing our gear issue, I was down to the dregs like a couple days before we started, where it's like whatever's left is what I get. So I'm a pretty big dude. I'm 6'3", 240. So I got really big feet. They didn't have any fins, I think, above like a size 10 or 11. So the ones I got, and they weren't even like adjustable ones. They were the old school, just rubber freaking bricks with the strap. That's all I had.
Joel, let me tell you something. I have size 4E feet.
You say 14?
Feet were like 4E. Like I got 9.5 4E.
I got you.
My feet were in the fins like this.
Yeah.
And I didn't know they had different sizes.
Yeah.
So like in first phase, a dude, dropped and his fins were in the cage. And I kind of looked at him. I'm like, I think those are bigger than mine. I put them on. I was like, oh my God.
Yes. I did the exact same.
Listen, brother.
Same thing.
And people don't understand how big of like, dog, it fucks your whole foot up, man.
Dude.
Like your foot's in them fins for a 2-mile swim. Your whole foot don't work the rest of the day.
When you're getting into the surf, right before you're heading out, and the first thing you do, you get in there, everyone's low, and then you got your booties on, and then you put your fins on there in the surf, and you're not taking off till everyone's ready to go, right? So anytime my boat crew would get in there and we're putting the fins on, guess who's always last? Because I could not get my fucking foot into that fin, and I'm fighting it with everything I got, and everyone else is waiting for me. Other boat crews are taking off. They're swimming. And my guys are sitting there like, Trumbo, let's go. And I'm like, everything I got pulling on that thing, dude. And it was like this. It was also like this. It was freaking like bent up. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I started going, I immediately got the foot cramps for any swim. It like locked up both feet. And so every swim I did was it was like that extra misery. And I did the same thing though. At some point I came across somebody who had, I think, size 13s, like, as big as mine. And they had dropped, or I saw them, they were out somewhere basically. And I snatched them things up, switched them out as fast as I could. And it was like a
Did
whole
your
new
wetsuit
world,
fit?
dude. Huh?
Did they give you a big enough wetsuit?
The wetsuit was big. It was still like pretty tight. It was a scruncher, but it wasn't as bad as the
Yeah,
fins.
yeah.
The fins are what I remember because that just broke my ass off every time because of how. And it was mostly just how long it took me to get them on. Like what a fight it was to get them on and off because you got to do it with the booties, you know. And so like my guys waiting for me, being the slow dude. That's what I'm not like a real type A personality. Like I don't have to beat everybody or be the best, but I am like a really hard type B personality. And like I'm not going to be the slow guy. I don't want to be last. You know, I don't want to
Yeah,
hold up the team. So that like,
yeah.
and I was already a little bit kind of self-conscious about that too because I was the youngest guy in the class as well. So when they're in there, everyone's ready to go and they're like, Trumbo, get your, I'm like, I kept trying to tell you, like, I'm everything I can to get these fins on. I literally cannot freaking get them on. It's taking me forever. That was rough. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha.
But
Okay,
overall, man,
so
it
you're in
was
it,
like dream come true, man. I was loving it. You know,
and you just the beatings and all the fun stuff that happens. A lot of kids get crushed with it, but for you, it sounds like you were having a blast.
I was having a blast. Yeah. So again, in retrospect, there was like several things at play there. One being immaturity and impatience. So like I almost kind of didn't really appreciate what I was in. Like I was enjoying it so much, I almost like didn't have the due like respect for it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because
Yep.
I just don't know. I'm like, this is freaking awesome. I'm here at SEAL training, so that was part of it. But another part was too. There were some things that did kick my ass. So overall, I was fairly pleased with my preparation. And I was like, I can do well on the PFT. I was coming in the middle in the swims. You know, I was never getting gooned on the runs or anything like that. But one thing, again, this is late '90s, was when I was doing most of the training and stuff, and it was all like body weight stuff, and I had never lifted weights. Big dude, but I had literally never lifted weights at all by the time I got to Buds. So
Okay.
I can do squats, body weight squats all day, lunges. You know, let me tell you, they put me under that log the first time I did log PT, and it kind of stands out in my mind as like that broke my ass off in a way that few things ever have since. Getting under that
In
weight and moving
in
that weight, man, that was something else, and I sucked at that. The freaking logs, like it wasn't just that it sucked. Like I sucked. I was the guy dragging my boat crew on the logs because I was not prepared for that piece.
Now, were you in Indoc or had you phased up yet?
I phased up, so I got
Okay.
injured. Yeah, the Monday of the third week of first phase.
Okay, so your first 2 weeks of phase, you lost 50% of your kids in your class. Like it's a playbook, right? Like you didn't have no problems leading up to that third week. Everything was you were steaming, willy beaming, passing your runs, your swims, and the O courses, kind of in the middle of the pack. Nothing really standing out.
Yeah, nothing major, with the exception of like the log PT. That one,
Okay.
I emphasize that because literally, like the first log PT session we did in phase was the guy who was running it. It lasted, I think, almost 3 hours, and he literally just had us doing the berm sprint race.
Yeah. Gosh, to be back. Second week of Buds. Had you failed anything at this point? Like you had 50-meter underwater swim, you had drown proofing,
No,
you
so
had
none of the assessment items. I was good on. I was first time. Well, except for drown proofing, I was a second time go on drown proofing.
okay.
But that wasn't. So basically, I was going down when we were doing the bobbing. There was one of the dudes coming up from the bottom of the pool, and we got close, and he ended up basically coming up like really fast and like headbutted me and knocked a tooth out. So I was like bleeding in the pool and stuff.
Shit.
And so
Let's go. You gotta
well, it didn't knock it all the
you,
way out. It like broke. It chipped my. It broke my tooth basically, but it cut
okay.
into my lip. So I was tied up and I was bleeding and everything. So they pulled me out of the pool. They made me run over to dental and cap it, and then I had to run back and I had to retest. So it wasn't like it wasn't a no go situation, but I
Damn.
had to do
Oh,
drown
that's
proofing twice
fucking
because the first time I got banged up.
First time I run through drown proofing, we're doing the bob or whatever, where you drop down to the bottom and come up. So one of the guys coming up from underneath basically like head slams me in the chin, and it didn't knock my tooth out, but it broke my tooth off, like chipped it, but it cut my lip real bad. So I'm still tied up, but I'm now bleeding all into the pool. So the instructors see it, they pull me out. they make me run over to Dental, which was, on NAB, it was like maybe half a mile away or something like that. So I had to run over there solo to Dental, and they threw on like the most ghetto freaking like tooth cap ever, and like real quick, like hand jam that thing in there. And
was it gold?
No, it was like half my tooth was off, and so they just put like a little whatever. It was porcelain kind of thing, whatever.
Yep.
They hardened it like a cement. They hardened it up, trimmed it down more or less, and then sent me back over. So then I had to run back out. So I had to redo drown proofing again.
Same day?
Yeah. I ran through again.
Hey, tell them seals don't give a shit.
Yeah. It was like, just get it fixed, get back in, because you're still on the list. You ain't passed yet. So I had to do it again. Yep. So I passed that okay. I didn't have any problem with the water stuff. I was really sweating the 50-meter underwater swim, to be honest. I was like terrified about that because I'd never done, I'd done like some anaerobic stuff, breath hold swims, but I'd never actually done like 50 meters and on one go before. And there's the other little goodies they throw in there. You got to jump in and do the flip, and you're not kicking, So I just stuck to the plan, and I swam to the bottom, thinking like this is going to be like the hardest shit. And I swam to the bottom, and I went slow, man. I was just like going, and dude, I hit that wall way before I realized it. I literally like ran into it almost. I was like, oh shit. Did my little flip and came back, and that was like the easiest one we did, and that was the one I was sweating the most, was the 50 meter. Honestly, the buddy save, or where, what is it, like the little rescue one where the instructor's in there and you gotta get him to the side, that one, which I thought was going to be a gimme, that one was way worse because dude beat my ass and almost drowned me. I'm trying to save, so it like doesn't really match up at all with necessarily what you're expecting. Like this thing is going to be really tough, and it might be pretty easy. And some stuff that you're like, well, underwater knot tying too, almost failed that bitch because the last knot on there, that dude, he kept me down there. He made me redo that like 3 times, and I know I was doing it right. He was just fucking with me. But the point was, I was like chicken necking because I was out of air, so I'm like, and I was even telling him like, I'm done, I'm going up, and he just kept nodding and like, and so I passed that one, but I thought I was going to fail that one. I almost passed out in the water on that one. So it's not necessarily the things you think are going to be the real ball kickers. They might be easier than you think, and some of the stuff that sounds pretty simple might end up being harder.
Yep. So you're in second week now. You roll into third week. What were your weekends like? Were you resting? Were you eating a ton?
Oh yeah.
You just kind of hanging out? Like I know for me, like everybody woke up at 5 a.m. So a lot of us went surfing.
Mm-hmm.
We also had El Nino, so we had big waves. But like the weekend was kind of like total rest, recovery. Go get a massage, maybe just kind of hang out. Yeah. What'd you do on that weekend?
I ate mostly. So I wasn't a surfer. Some of the guys they'd be going out there surfing. We did hit the beach a little bit, but honestly, I wasn't trying to spend any more time on the beach than I needed. I got a little Irish complexion, so I was already pretty sunburned and everything. My head's bald, so I wasn't trying to spend more time on the beach than I needed to. Yeah, so the class I was in 247, and they were renovating 618 at the time, or the first phase deck. So we did our in-dock, and we're in the in-dock barracks. But we actually stayed in the in-dock barracks throughout phase. So we were in there. We didn't move over till 6, or the class didn't go to 618 until after. It wasn't even after Hell Week. It was after. It was second phase was when they moved over there. We were in the in-dock barracks the whole time. So my roommates, the guys right next door to me, one of them was Aaron Vaughn. He was a good buddy of mine, and he was my next door roommate. He was one of the Extortion 17 guys, and we used to go pretty much, almost every night, but on the weekends. We'd head up to the Strand to La Salsa, right up there by the Hotel Del Coronado across the street, and we would hit those burritos like every night, the big old burritos. So I was chilling on the weekends and eating. Yeah, I was always hungry ranger. Yeah. So, but
it's interesting because a lot of the dudes that don't make it are fucking around on the weekends. They're going out like there's a dude in my class, man, that was going out Tuesday and Thursday night. I went with him one time, I almost died. One time, I was like, oh my God, like Friday, I couldn't even function. So I don't know how them dudes do it, but okay.
I wasn't trying to do any of that. I was fairly well focused. I mean, for a young and mature dude, but I wasn't about like trying to party or I was just trying to get it done. So, but the weekend before the second weekend, they had us in the surf doing rocking chairs for a long time. Friday of the second week, and what happened was I ended up sucking in a lot of water during that. Bay water's nasty. I ended up getting pneumonia that weekend. I didn't know that's what it was, but I was just really sick that second weekend. I had like a fever and everything. I pretty much didn't really get out of bed. I got up to like clean the barracks and stuff like that. No, we were doing rocking chairs. Like they had us laying there on our backs and then kicking our feet up over our heads, when the surf's breaking, so you're underwater but like almost upside down.
I've never done those.
Oh, yeah. So they had us link arms, and every time the waves are coming in, they tell us kick our feet up and over our heads, and then the water comes in. So it just kind of puts you in a weird position where you're just not really keeping a lot of water out, no matter what you're doing. I ended up sucking in somehow or another a lot of water. Point being, I got really sick that weekend. So like I helped the guys clean the room and everything on the weekend a little bit, but I really didn't do much. I was pretty much in bed the whole weekend. And again, this is one of those like youthful experience things. I was like terrified of Bud's Medical. I'm not trying to go to medical for shit.
Yep.
So I'm like, it was on Friday was when I started like really coming down with it, and Saturday I was down hard. But I was like, it's the weekend. Like, let me just freaking hydrate my face off and lay here and sleep, and I'll be good. So I ended up being sicker than I realized. I thought it was just like a little flu or something. So we go out Monday morning for the 4-mile timed run early, and I was still pretty sick, but we do the time run, and I passed the time run, but it was on that time run when I had my heat stroke.
Okay.
And I remember it, like I was conscious the whole time. I remember the tunnel vision getting so bad. So it was like right at I remember the muscle burning and everything. I wasn't really in my right mind. I kind of like went outside my right mind, and I had tunnel vision on several levels because I could see the headlights of the truck at the end of the run. And I was literally, at one point, my field of vision came down to just like, that's all I could see. But I was like, I'm not going to stop until I hit that thing. So my muscles are burning. I'm seeing the wizard, but I kept going. And what was happening was I stroked out really bad, and I was like cooking myself. But I was close enough to the end. I actually finished that run, but it was so bad when I crossed the finish line, they got my time, and I passed the run, but like as soon as I stopped running, all my muscles just stopped working. I literally like fell over on the other side and lay there on the sand. So the cadre who's there, I don't remember who it was, but whoever was grading it, he thought I was just being a pussy or something. So he starts chewing me out, and he's still grading guys coming in, right? So he's like, "Hey, get your ass up!" Like, don't. And I literally couldn't move. I was like, I couldn't speak or anything. I went to like total muscle shutdown. So he's getting pissed. He yells at me for a minute while he's trying to get dude's times. So then he's got a couple of the other guys over there. He tells them to drag me out and dump me in the water and like put me in the surf to cool down for a minute. So they dropped me off in the water, and I was just kind of bobbing there for a bit in the surf while other dudes are coming in.
Were you conscious at this point?
I was conscious the whole time. I never lost consciousness. I did get a little fuzzy when they were exfilling me out of there, kind of between there and the hospital. But I didn't like go down hard or lose consciousness. I remember it, but I was like in shock or whatever. It wasn't like super clear or cogent memory. So, but I was in the surf for a minute, and I think he kind of forgot about me. He was getting times, but at one point he's like, "Hey, whoever you over there, like come back up here." And I still couldn't move. I couldn't move at all. I was just laying there floating. So then he's tells the guys like, pull his ass up here. They pull me back up there. He calls the corpsman over, tells me, give me the thermometer. So dude rods me off the range, and my core temp at that time was 107.4.
Ooh.
And he's like, oh shit,
107.4.
So they pulled 107.4.
Oh, Jesus.
They throw me in the ambulance and everything, take me to Bud's Medical. They're doing ice baths and the whole nine. They get me over to Balboa pretty quick. And I remember most of that. Like kind of between there and Balboa, I do fade out a little bit. I don't have like a very clear memory of the trip over there, but I was more or less conscious. But yeah, I was pretty fucked up. I ended up being in Balboa for about 5 days over there because I had organ damage, I had like muscle damage, a little bit of brain damage. Like it cooked me pretty bad.
So for everybody listening, man, anything over 105 is absolutely like murderous. Like I saw a guy get to 10 was it 105.3 or 105.3. And I mean, he was butt naked in the ice bath like you're talking about, right? But I want everybody to understand if you 107, all sorts of shit's getting messed up right now.
Well, and that's why it got crazy, because even the doctors, when I got over to Balboa, they were like, A, they were kind of surprised I was conscious, and B, the one doctor who was in there, he's like, you don't see, like, you go over high 106, and like that's often fatal. Like, I'm not even sure why you're still alive at the moment, but it was kind of touch and go for a couple days. It was pretty hairy. So there were a lot of issues with that. One of them being, it wasn't that hot out. It was like early morning, so it was probably, I don't know, like low 60s or something, 58, 60 degrees. I don't know. It wasn't hot. And so for me to cook out like that, the Cadre were like, something else is up. And they came out to the hospital at one point, were asking me, like, what are you taking? What are you on? I wasn't on anything. I wasn't even on multivitamins. I was pretty focused on, like, I don't want to mess this up. So I was following all the rules. I wasn't, but they were like, you're taking creatine, aren't you? Or some kind of like fat. I don't know. Like, what are you taking? I was telling them, I was like, I'm not taking anything. When I got back to the barracks after the hospital stay, they cut open my locker and tossed all my shit looking for stuff. Because they were like, there's no way you stroke out like that, on a not hot day.
They don't normally see people conscious, correct?
Right. And so the Cadre was thinking that I was taking stuff, which I was like I said, I was trying not to mess anything up. So I was following the rules. I wasn't even doing multivitamins. I wasn't taking shit.
Were people taking thermogens then? Did you know about thermogens?
Yeah, well, that was a thing, and they were sensitive about that. I don't actually know of anybody in my class who was. I'm sure there probably were, but it wasn't a thing, at least not on my radar. They put out early on, like, you're not going to take Jack during training. You can get Motrin from medical if you need it. That's it. And I was like, Roger that. I'm not doing anything. So I wasn't, but they didn't believe that, because they're like, there's no way you stroke out like that, on a 60-degree morning on a 4-mile run. And you almost die. That's insane. So when I got back from the hospital 5 days later, they cut open my locker and tossed all my shit. They were looking for it. They're like, you're on something. It wasn't. But what they ended up, what it seemed to be what the case was, because they did a whole bunch of scans while I was in the hospital, and they found I had pneumonia. So probably what had happened was I got pneumonia, and I got real sick over the weekend. Probably I was going into that with a pretty high fever anyway, is what I'm thinking. I was probably started that run at like 102 or something like that. Not, I didn't go to medical, so that was on me, but I don't know what the situation was, but probably it was that. I was already starting off really hot and just cooked it. Yeah, so I ended up getting med dropped for the heat stroke. Yeah. So at the time, I don't know if this is still the case. At the time, they had like if you had heat stroke, this is what was explained to me, that they kind of had like a zero tolerance policy. If you have a heat stroke, you're dropped. There's no waiver for it. There's no nothing.
We had a dude in my class that had like 4 heat strokes. So I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that we had been at war for 2 years, and there had been some dudes getting popped over there, because it was hot as balls over there. I wonder if it had something to do with that, because you're 247, so 30 classes before you, 4 or 5 years before you, wasn't a big deal if you had heat stroke. So
right. Well, yeah, that was kind of surprising to me. So what they explained to me was that was the Bureau of Naval Medicine policy now, at the time at any rate. I don't know what it is now, but that if you had a heat stroke, then you were dropped. The rationale they explained to me was because it fucks up your thermoregulation system. And so you're like now more of basically you couldn't be on dive status essentially. And so that's obviously a no-go for buds or anything like that, because you're a liability. So I actually tried. The second part of the story is I was trying to get back to buds, because